well done.
Acompanha Berpakovski, entra! Marca Berpakovski!
And Riga lead.
Welcome to the Latvian Football Podcast. In this episode, which we are recording right after the final of the Latvian Cup 2023, we are going to chat about the Latvian Cup 2023, the fifth Riga derby of this year. Finally, the one that could not end in a draw as the other four did. And, it didn't.
Well, barely didn't, in a way.
Barely didn't.
Still managed to take it to the penalties. It was as much of a draw as it could have been. And in the end, Riga scraped the win in the penalties. Even then, it was just one miss from RFS, Petr Mareš. Interesting match, but considering it's late October in Latvia and just how many degrees Celsius it was, like 5 or something.
I think it was +3.
Of course, extra time and penalties weren't the best thing from that point of view, from the viewers' point of view, but still, what a game. It had a lot to talk about, I think. So we can delve into it.
Yeah, so this game was something that was very much anticipated, as any Riga derby is, any big Riga derby is. And also because this is actually only the first time in the history of contemporary Virslīga and competitions around it that the two Rigas met in the final. It's quite remarkable that this has never happened before, especially that both are frequent guests, frequent participants in the finals of the Cup. But this was the first big Riga derby. And I don't know. What did you feel before the game? What did you think would happen?
Wasn't really sure because the whole situation with Virslīga and the fact that both are in top 2 places and fighting it still for the champion title, it seemed sort of almost irrelevant. It was like sort of a warm up for the last 3 games of Virslīga season, because still each are their own sort of makers of their destiny. Well, Riga more than RFS, because RFS can just win the games, but it's more about what Riga does. So in the cup, the winner wasn't really that relevant, but still it was definitely between the two clubs, the two teams. It was very important to at least just this year see who was the best amongst the two of them. It was sort of an anticipation, but I guess the best thing about it was that it wasn't really that important who's going to win. It was just going to be a nice Riga derby and see how the both team plays, considering they also have to consider Virslīga and they don't want to lose players to injuries in the most important matches of the season. And it was just interesting to see what teams both clubs put on and what the coaches think of. RFS, I think, they put a very interesting formation with Jagodinsky sort of pushing up like a holding midfielder. It was interesting. But before the game, wouldn't say that it was very big in the sense of it's very important, but still a lot of people came and there was something around it, which was nice to see. But in a way, it was interesting just because it wasn't actually that important.
5,121 or so people came on this chilly evening on a Wednesday to Skonto Stadium to enjoy the game, which is lovely. It's not the highest attended Riga derby of this year even, but still very solid numbers for Latvia, very good. So that's fantastic. I don't know, I didn't really, luckily I didn't have the time to ponder about who is going to win because it's just so busy at work at the moment. But here's the thing and I think this is reminiscent of the season overall. I think RFS are a better team, and it seems that Stipic thinks that too. And we can all agree that Riga have better players, certainly more expensive players, kind of more flashy players. more exciting players, maybe, new ones. But Riga seemed to want it more. And it's just as simple as that to me this season, that every step of the way, when RFS could have gone around Riga, they pretty much chose not to. And sometimes there's a good reason for that, other times there is no good reason for that. And this game tonight, the final of the Latvian Cup, which, as you said, doesn't really do anything. If anything, the beneficiaries of this game are the number 4 spot in the Virslīga. Either of Riga's, other than a bit of shiny silverware, don't really gain anything from this. Number 1 spot qualifies for Champions League qualifiers. Number 2 spot goes to Conference League as is. So it doesn't really matter that much.
One thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it that the cup winners start the European qualifiers from the second round, as Auda did this year?
They do, but does it really make that big of a difference for these teams?
I would say it's even worse, because I think you want to start in the first round because you want to win and get some coefficient points. Yeah. And because it's most likely a very easy team to get past. In that way, it's almost, you don't want to win if you're going to end up second in Virslīga. But of course, I don't think the teams think about that. It's just, purely theoretical.
That's actually an interesting question, because Riga, if they take the league, then they go to Champions League qualifiers. But then what happens to this second qualifying round of Conference League?
It's probably in second place. Right?
Well, then it makes no difference whatsoever.
Right?
Yeah,
good point. Yeah,
it's just a shiny plate, which of course is worth things. We talked about Latvian Cup; it's a prestigious whole tournament. But the point here being that, what was my point? My point was that I think Riga wanted more. I don't know if they want it more as a team, or do they want it more just because Stipic wants it more. But they seem to want it more than RFS do. A little bit, but more.
That is a good point. I think maybe it is because of the coach. I think Stipic is more of a passionate coach and a very big motivator, because I think players get it that it doesn't really matter that much. I think the game showed it as well, by the way. It seemed quite slow, especially in the extra time. It was just sort of passing around the back, not really trying to give it all in the first half, and first and second half as well. But maybe that could be the factor, because I think RFS could be the sort of club that just, no, it doesn't matter, let's focus on Virslīga. And maybe they just lacked some passion, some emotions. Yeah, but as you said, there's sometimes good reason for it, sometimes not. This would be a time I would say I don't really see the reason why, because you can still, get a silverware. If you're going to be a long-term club in Latvia, you want this, and you want to make history, so... It was interesting to see, but somehow, it seemed that they lacked some emotion. Well, certain players, maybe some did very good and tried hard, and it was showing. But interesting point. I don't know why overall it was the Riga wanted more.
Well, this is Stipic pulling 2-0 over Morozs, given that Stipic won the cup last year with Auda, 1-0 over RFS as well. So, that's good personally for him. But, I don't know, we got to the stadium. Everything was nice and it was well. There was a fan sector for Riga. There was a large fan sector for RFS. There was a mixed crowd in between. And then the game kicked off, and RFS, in my opinion, from where I was sitting, were just absolute garbage. They played like they played at the beginning of the season. No creativity whatsoever, passing the ball around the defense, trying to use the long runs by the wingbacks, Mares and Savalnieks, and then trying to cross to Lemaic, a sole tall forward, and really no creativity over that. I did not see Markiev at all, for example. Ikalnieks was involved in very limited capacity, and Riga were, I think, undoubtedly a better team in the first half, and the scoreline reflected that, because they scored in 43rd minute or something like that, which was an absurd goal, in the sense that there was no no angle. Douglas Aurelius swapped places with Anthony Contreras at some point during the halfway point of the first half. Went to his left flank, which I think is a better position for him. He's far more natural there. Just cut through, running along the corner line, and somehow slotted the ball into the near corner, went in off the far post, and the goalkeeper was pretty much clueless, Nerogals.
It was a weird one because I think everyone, and even Aurelio, was considered it was going to be a pass. I think he was passing, so it's natural for Nerogals to sort of step out of the line a bit and try and intercept the pass. But yeah, I don't know if Nerogals touched it with his right hand or not, but yeah, it just sort of went behind him along the line, and yeah, it seemed that it's not going to go in, but yeah, hit the post and did go in. It was a weird one. It wasn't really that understandable from my angle because yeah, from my angle, it seemed that it's just going to be impossible to score. It was interesting, but I'd say overall it was sort of coming, the goal, although there weren't really any big chances during the half. The teams are very careful with their game, weren't really pushing it that much. It was just sort of trying to find some moments, and they found this one. Completely just destroyed the RFS's right wing, and I think it was Ngonda and Aurelio sort of built this goal up. Yeah, it was interesting to see, and straight after the goal, by the way, as well. Huge mistake from Prenga, I think it was, and then another big chance for Aurelio to score, but didn't. But it just seemed very rough, very sloppy from RFS, especially some defenders. And I'd say one of the things that I didn't understand was the formation that they and sort of style of the play that they put out with the three center backs, which isn't something unusual, but Jagodinski is the central one. When they're with the ball, sort of went up and sort of made this triangle with the rest of the two center backs and was like a holding midfielder, which I'm not sure if I've seen them done that a lot, at least, and that to do something like this in the cup final was very interesting. Well, it didn't result in a goal, but still, it seemed that they didn't really know what to do with the ball. They didn't really lose it, passed it around, but there wasn't really logic to their attacks, and that's why they didn't have many, at least I think.
No, there wasn't any creativity to be seen. Prenga is having a terrible time lately in the Virtus League game that just preceded the cup final against Tukums. I mean, he made goal conceding mistakes, silly ones as well, like not hitting the ball in front of him. It wasn't as bad today, but still. I was actually surprised when Jagodinskis got subbed off and not Prenga.
Me too. We were thinking that as well. Yeah. It seemed that it's he needs a change. Yeah, he wasn't really doing his best, and if you're gonna put on a midfielder and go with four defenders, why Jagodinskis, who seemed, well, I'd say overall solid, and I think he always is, especially in these kinds of matches. So it was a bit of a weird decision.
Yeah, he's not having as good of a season as last year, but tonight, absolutely better than Prenga, I think. Definitely. And then, the formation choice, I mean, RFS are famous for playing a single formation every single time, 4-2-3-1. And they're very good at it. But then Morozs this year is trying this weird kind of a hybrid 3 essential defenders dynamic formation, which is like 3-2-3-2 or something like that. I'm not even sure. There's lots of players moving around at any given time. And tonight, Prenga, more often than not, I saw him in the position of right back, of all people. And then Savarniak, who is the right wing back, spent quite a bit of time being one of the central defenders for whatever reason. It was just bizarre, and I agree. Players seemed a bit confused with what to do. Emerson was out of the starting 11. He's still recovering from injury, so Savic took his place, and Savic is interesting, and he's energetic and quick, and you can see that he really wants to do things, but he still has this issue that he kind of plays himself into a corner most of the time. Doesn't pass the ball or doesn't pass it accurately or holds it on for too long, and he exerted some danger down the left flank, but nothing really that made any difference. And Riga scored. Teams went to the break 1-0. Riga leading over RFS. First time Riga leading this season over RFS.
Yeah, very late in the season as well. It seemed interesting. It seemed a bit even weird because, I'd say out of 4 Riga derbies this year, I think RFS have been the better team and controlled the game more. But this game, as you said, Riga just seemed to want it more and created more and just overall seemed better and more concentrated and knew their plan. And you mentioned Prengab going at right back and Savednieks being high up, and I think that's why that side got exploited a lot. And it's also a bit unusual to see this sort of tactical, I don't know, inaccuracies, I'd say, from RFS side, because I think that's one thing Morozs always does good. He knows what to say to players, where to put them, and the players know as well what to do and what's their role. And I don't know if it sort of just fell apart today, or maybe just Riga were that good and that prepared for it. But it seemed weird and definitely made for an interesting second half because the RFS obviously should want to get back in the game, and it was interesting to see what Riga are going to do in the second half.
Yeah, and RFS did get back into the game in the second half. It was much better. They looked like themselves finally. They took control of the game. They were pressuring Riga. Riga were almost forced to play counterattacks at that point. And it didn't really result in a goal. But anytime the ball went anywhere near the penalty area of Riga FC, it was dangerous most of the time. Emerson came on despite being injured. There were a few other subs, some more questionable than others, but Emerson and Diomande coming on immediately made an impact, a lot more danger. Before them, there was kind of this gap between the low block and the attacking block. Those two managed to kind of connect the two together. They were playing between the lines. When RFS would go on attack, they would fill in that gap. That was a big problem in the first half. And it was just really good to see the team play as we're used to seeing them play. And then on 45 plus 4, right? So 49th minute, due to a VAR decision, RFS get awarded a penalty, and Ikaunieks converts, and it's 1-1. And we get extra time.
Yeah, it was very interesting because first of all, as you said, there weren't really like big opportunities for RFS, but every time the ball got close to the penalty box for the goal, it sort of made it was a bit dangerous, and it seemed that Riga it was very, what's the word? It just seemed that they're very worried every time the ball is in the box, and weren't really that communicating that well, because I think there were at least 3 moments where one player could have played the ball, but Ngom was just sort of intervening and then playing the ball instead, when it could have been done easier. One time it was when Riga got caught on the counter attack, and I think it was Emerson running with Jurkovskis, and I was watching and thinking, Jurkovskis is actually sort of catching up, and he's gonna beat Emerson to it, and then Ngom just comes sliding and created instantly an even more dangerous attack than it was before. Then one time it was a bit dangerous when I think Matrovic, the goalkeeper, could have caught the ball, and then again Ngom was heading it, and it seemed that if RFS is not going to score, Riga are going to just concede because of their own sort of faults. But in the end it wasn't that. It was just a high ball in the box, and it was a very weird handball. Some appeals for it, but not really that noticeable. And Riga got the ball, and then it was interesting. They were building a counter, and Zuzins just completely took out 2 or 3 players in a row and got awarded a yellow card. Could have maybe even been it was like 2 yellow card worth fouls, but it ended up just being a yellow card. But yeah, it was a foul, a lot of appeals, players running to the foul spots, and these handbags were happening and whatever, and then it's just suddenly a VAR call, and I was thinking, is it a red card or not? But no, suddenly it was a penalty, and I think it was a very, well, not a soft one to give, but I wouldn't say it was 100% penalty. It was weird because ball's in the air, he was sort of blocking the player, the hand was stuck out, but I guess overall, yeah, did hit the hand, and sort of a fair penalty, but it was just a bit weird because it's the dying minutes. I was almost sure Riga are gonna win, and then out of nowhere VAR penalty, and the whole dynamic suddenly changed. And I think it's also worth noting that Riga put Peña and Taivo on in 60th and 67th minute, and then in the 89th minute they were both subbed off again, so they only got 20-30 minutes of playing time, and they were subbed off for Menix and Bosacic, much more defensive players. I think even Stipic was thinking, well, this is it, let's defend, let's win, and that's it. And then, as I said, whole dynamic changed. RFS scored, and they found themselves going into extra time with I'd say a very weird squad for it. I almost was thinking, well, Stipic really made a mistake here with these subs, especially subbing players who were sort of fresh. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. And then, 1-1 and extra time.
Those subs were so bizarre. Peña, okay, he kind of managed a couple of solo runs, but didn't really get into the game. Taivo, he was a menacing presence more than anything. He's a very big physical player. You could see that he's drawing what few RFS defenders are left on the field away. So that was good. But yeah, no, I agree. Stipic, I think he jumped the gun with this, which is a little strange given the amount of praise he gave to RFS this season about them, having this heritage and character and winning games in the dying seconds. And that's what happened here pretty much. That, the last moments of the regulation time, RFS score, equalize, and we go into extra time, and Riga are in a highly defensive squad situation. And what's the consequence of that? The consequence is that both halves of extra time, Riga were on the back foot. It was, I don't even know how many corners RFS delivered, and it's shocking that they didn't score any. Just Riga defending, waiting for penalties. I think they are in a better position for penalties because Matrovic is a large goalkeeper. Nerugaus is a little bit of a questionable goalkeeper, despite his record this season, I think. I think that's mainly due to RFS defense, not to his particular talents. And just the on-field squad for Riga. I mean, RFS are just not a penalty team. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I will also just add that during the extra time, the ball possession was 75% for RFS. It almost seemed that Riga was a man down, or 2 men down even. But it's purely because of the squad that was left. Okay, they put on Dashkevich, and it was Mankenda, right? And then some things happened and some attacks. But still, RFS controlled the ball, but didn't really go forward with it as well. Honestly, at one point it was so 2-3 minutes, like in the last 5 minutes of the extra time, they were just passing around the back, and it wasn't really even looking as if they're going to find some spaces or something in the attack. It seemed that they were playing for penalties, which is interesting if you're saying that RFS is not a penalty team. I don't know if they are, because I think they've had a lot of penalties during their previous competitions, but still maybe a good point. And the penalties, it was interesting. Thank God they happened in that half of the pitch where there is a stand behind the goal. It would be sort of underwhelming if it was the other side. And Riga went first and just scored all the penalties. And then RFS, I think, if not their main or the second in line penalty taker missed. I think overall it wasn't the best game for him. Not necessarily because of his performance, but of some calls that he thought should have been fouls, and he was very angry throughout the game, it seemed. And then also missed the penalty. Matrovic saved it. I think pretty much the first time we've seen Matrovic in some major action this season, because even when he took the place in the net, there weren't really many chances on his goal. It was interesting to see, and Riga were very confident with their penalties. I don't think there was even one where it was guessed. Maybe Ngonda's penalty. I think maybe Niergos guessed the side. Either way, beat them on penalties, and overall I would say it was a fair result, because I think throughout the game Riga were the better team and deserved it more, though the extra time was sort of weird, but I guess it's just because of how the teams were left due to the late goal during the main two halves. But overall I'd say it was deserved, and I think they created more and just showed more passion and more better football this game than RFS, which was just weird to see from RFS's side, because I think they should have done better.
I agree completely. Especially given the fact that there's 3 rounds left in Virslīga or something like that. And I would say the chances of overtaking Riga are pretty symbolic at this point. So why not get the cup?
Yeah, I guess it's a good point, but at the same time, are they symbolic? They have a better calendar left than Riga. Riga has the Valmiera in the last game, and that could mean a lot to Valmiera as well, and then it's hard to say who's going to win. RFS could have lost it to Tukums. They sort of built this emotion up. Maybe that's where they drained their emotion for the cup final. Maybe that could be a reason for it. But it's tough to say now, because I was thinking whether the losers of this cup are now going to sort of have this decrease in emotion and boost, and the winners get more of it, or maybe it's just exactly the opposite. Riga are now comfortable with their one cup, which they shouldn't be, but you can't help how you think mentally, and then RFS maybe are going to be more angry. It's going to be interesting to see now how both teams respond to this result. But it would have been either way, even if the game went the other way. It's going to be interesting to see, but I don't know. RFS just, something was lacking. Emerson came on. He was active, but it seemed that he's not himself this season. Maybe got too comfortable in RFS or Virslīga, I don't know. I think Dashkovic was quite good when he came on. He's been always recently. Mankenda, not that noticeable, but still. I think Zuzins, he wasn't the first substitution of the game in Jagodinski's place. I think he was a good sub, but still didn't really manage to make such a difference. And there we are. Riga are the champions, and I think they've got a cup after quite some time, right? 2 years without a trophy for them.
Yeah, so last time Riga, and the only time Riga won the cup, was in 2018 season, when they beat Ventspils, also on penalties, also the same score on penalties, scoring all of theirs, and Ventspils scoring only 4 of theirs. So that's quite a repeat for them. So they are now in possession of 2 Latvian Cups and runners up twice, 2 golds, 2 silvers, which is exactly the same as RFS. RFS won the cup in 2019 and 2021, both times by 1 goal difference, and in 2021 1-0, and they came second twice, which was last year and this year. Last year losing 1-0 to Auda, which was at the time headed by Tomislav Stipic also. And of course tonight, losing 5-4 on penalties after 1-1 regular time to Riga, headed by Tomislav Stipic as well. So really what we're looking at is Tomislav Stipic 2, Viktor Morozs 0 in this case.
Quite ironic considering his name is Victor.
Yeah,
But,
I've been doing lots of that in terms of trophies anyway lately.
Yeah, interesting that during like the last 6 or so years, both teams have been in the final. Well, either one of them, apart from one when it was Liepāja Ventspils, but they've never met. Yeah, it's interesting how it never came out, but this time it did. But yeah, I think this is very good for Riga, not only as a team or Stipic as a coach, but as a club, because as I said, the last trophy was 2 years ago when they won Virš League. The previous 2 years it was RFS and Valmiera, and the cup winners were also not Riga, so it was definitely needed for them, especially if they're going to be like the biggest club in Latvia, which they pretty much are now. But if they want to establish that more and sort of get back their reign when they won Virš League 3 years in a row, I think this was very needed. But still, even though I think Stipic is a all right coach, definitely a very emotional and motivational one. Yeah, this game still, I think he almost made a mistake with those substitutions and considering the game done. And when it was 1-1 and then extra time started, I fully believe that RFS are going to take it now because they sort of had this boost of emotion because of their goal, and the squad left definitely was better than Riga's. And but somehow they managed to not concede, all Riga that is, and win on penalties. So maybe he's a mastermind after all. Because Bošančić scored the penalty, Dašković scored the penalty, the two subbed on. But of course, joking. I wasn't even expecting Dašković to do the penalty. But either way, good for Riga. And now if they take Virš League as well, then definitely gotta praise Stipic for his work, because last year winning without Auda was definitely a very big achievement. I guess again he got lucky that RFS was just drained of emotions because of the conference league group, and now maybe after Tukums game. But either way, he knew how to pounce on it and did it. And definitely the last 3 games of Virš League now are going to be very, very interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm just happy that on the off chance that Riga do not win the Virš League this year, maybe Stipic will not get sacked by the very flamboyant owners of the club because he won the cup.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I think it seems that Stipic may be finally the coach that stays. I think at this point it seems if he's going to leave, it's because of his own accord, not because of the owners and the club. I think even they and their style and history of choosing coaches and what they do with the coaches, at some point they got to learn, right?
I mean, one would think, but
it is a good point.
They say common sense is not all that common, and I think this very much applies to their situations. Certainly, history is not supporting your hopes.
Yeah, true, but very contrasting to RFS, who've had the Morozs for a long time. Maybe it's time for a change for them.
2 years.
2 years only?
He was assistant coach for a year, I think. But as head coach...
I don't think he was. I think he was straight to head coach after the Lithuanian guy. He came from Daugavpils. I think he's been for like 3-4 years now.
We should really check.
Well, maybe. It's a good point, yeah.
It feels... I think the takeaway is that it feels longer than it probably has been.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he needs to go. I just think maybe he needs an assistant that can do something like what Stipic does.
No, true, yeah. Stipic is a whole team, not only him.
Yeah, he has 5-6 assistant coaches.
Yeah, I've heard that more and more, that maybe he's not the best tactically and formationally, but he's just a good presence and the head coach, and then maybe his assistants are really the doers of the...
Did you hear that from me? Because I've been saying that for a while, that I think Stipic is really good in terms of motivating.
Good point, but now I'm hearing more from other sources as well, and then it seemed really to be the case, so it's definitely a very good spot for you.
To me, the games in the Conference League show this perfectly, where teams are even on motivation, and when teams don't know each other, tactically he is very unimaginative. I actually would say that Morozs is much better tactically,
Probably.
tactically and strategically than Stipic over the long run. But his sheer weight and energy of personality makes a difference that few other coaches can match. And it made a difference. I don't know if it made a difference today, but it does make a difference in other games as well.
Yeah, there's very different coaches also in their personality. Morozs is very calm and, well, I wouldn't say laid back, but he's never run to the end of the pitch when RFS score or anything like that. Very opposite to Stipic. And yeah, I'm just now wondering what's their relationship like, because, there's now 2 cups where Stipic won over Morozs, all the Riga derbies this year. Of course, during the games, they're enemies, but I wonder how it's like off the football pitch, if they ever talked, or what's their sort of respect towards each other, and if they went for a beer, what would happen. Would be very interesting to see, because they're definitely the 2 main coaches in Latvia this season. Last year there was Kalns, of course. This year not so much. And definitely the 2-year cup record for Stipic. Interesting what Morozs thinks about it, or if he even does. But
he would say that he doesn't, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty much every time the answer during press conferences, that we don't look at the table, we don't look at the winning or losing streaks, we just do our thing, which, fair enough. But I wouldn't say that Morozs is calm, given the amount of red and yellow cards.
Of course,
He's not...
Towards the refs, he's definitely not calm.
Yeah, he's not as expressive as Stipic is.
Yeah.
But no, and watching the RFS docu-series, you can see that he's not calm. He's just different, I think.
Yeah.
But so Latvian Cup 2023 goes to Riga FC. Congratulations to the club, to everyone involved, and to the players. We have just a few more rounds left in the Virslīga, and we'll come back to that in a different episode. We have a special episode that is going to be released soon that will focus on the stadium, football infrastructure, and the Latvian national team, and all the controversy surrounding that as of late. And, first season of Latvian Football for Latvian Football Podcast is wrapping up, and we're just very excited and grateful for all the people who have been tuning in and listening to our conversations from March, or whenever we started, up until the end of this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.